All right, guys. We are live. We are on the Automotive Intel Report. My name is Sandy Cerami, and to my right-hand side, we got my right-hand guy, Mr. Ron Marvelous, Ron Marvo. And to my left, we got the one and only, the incomparable, I call him JT for short, but the incomparable John Traver, CEO at Traver Connect and the Traver companies, because there's more than one company that we can talk about. But today we're going to talk about Traver Connect and how to optimize your BDC for maximum results. Before we get started, we got to pay the bills here, JT. So just, if you will, indulge me this. This episode today is sponsored by Priority Payments Local, the leading provider of merchant-focused payment processing and funding solutions in America. Their proprietary Net Zero platform helps dealerships and virtually any business that accepts card payments to reduce and even eliminate processing fees once and for all, saving their clients 5, 6, and even 7 figures annually. Whether you're a traditional brick and mortar business or an online e-commerce business, Priority Payments has a solution that's perfect for you and your business. Visit sandycerami.com/priority for a free analysis of your projected savings. You're also going to be sponsored today by, guys, Sandy Cerami 7 Pillars Live. As a matter of fact, JT, we're excited because I'm going to be hosting 8 live sessions beginning April 20th, where we go 1 hour weekly. And we are going to be talking about the 7 pillars of killer business development. As a matter of fact, if you're out there and you're watching this broadcast right now and you're sick and tired of somebody screaming into your cell phone screen, your tablet, or your computer screen, telling you they're going to help you buy your first jet, your first mansion, or your first island in the South Pacific, and you're really looking for a platform that's going to help you be your best authentic version of yourself and achieve the kind of success you're looking for, then go to sandycerami.com, click on the 7 pillars button, and get started today. As a matter of fact, we got an early bird offer that starts at 3 o'clock today. So from 3 p.m. forward today, you'll be able to register at sandycerami.com. In the meantime, and by the way, we offer a money-back guarantee. I can't forget about that, Ron Marvo. If you are not satisfied, we will give you your money back. That's how sure I am that the 7 Pillars platform will help you explode your business. In the meantime, I'm excited because we've got a special guest, Ron. You and I have been looking forward to this. We had a situation a couple weeks ago where John had to take care of something offline, so we had to reset and reschedule. But I'm excited to have John talk today about his life, specifically how he's gotten started in setting up and building businesses over his career. And then we'll get into the BDC piece. But John, welcome to the show. I appreciate you taking the time, buddy.
Welcome, John.
Hey, it is my pleasure. I love being with you guys. And for those in the audience, thank you for spending a little time with us today. It's my pleasure. Great to be here.
Well, thanks, buddy. The last time we saw each other, we were sitting around a fire, drinking a bourbon, smoking a cigar, and enjoying life at Business Bourbon and Cigars with SJ 24/7. He can no longer be called SJ 24/7. I invited him on today, and he said that he had to get his workout in with his private trainer.
Oh,
Yeah.
So he was on the program as well. Exactly.
How about that? How about that?
Exactly.
Very impressed. Can't wait to see him and the slimmer version of Scott.
Well, yeah, he can't either. Trust me. By the way, neither can Trish.
No, there you
Right?
go. Yeah.
Hey, John,
Poor
let's start from the start. Let's talk a little bit about how you grew up, because you know the first time we met, I invited Ron and I down to your place without any provocation whatsoever.
Yeah.
We just decided to invite ourselves to come
Yeah.
and
What are
meet
you
with
guys
you
doing here?
and
Yeah.
have dinner. Exactly. We just showed up knocking on the door and had dinner. But your story is something that is really compelling. Can you share with the audience a little bit of your background, early childhood, and then ultimately business background?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. I grew up in southeastern Wisconsin, so Midwest boy at heart. I think for me, I learned that I was adopted at 5 years old. I had a buddy tell me at his house, "Hey, you're adopted." And his mom, her heart, I could see, just sank. And
Yeah.
she said, "You need to go home and talk to your mom." And so I got on my bike, and this is in Milwaukee behind Miller Brewing. We used to hit baseballs in the old broken windows of the Miller Brewing factory that was there
Oh,
on
wow.
41st Street. Yeah. And so I go home and I say, "Hey, Mom, am I adopted?" And she said, "Sit down." And so I'm actually in a foster home at this point, didn't know it. And I remember all this clearly, and it was a good process for me. I think as I look back on my life, I was sharing with you guys kind of offline about how looking back sometimes is so much more clear than looking at or looking forward, right?
Hindsight 2020, JT.
Yeah, it is. It's just an interesting perspective that life offers. So, so there, and I'm adopted by the Travers a couple of years later. I moved to North Prairie, Wisconsin, population 686. So I go from the city to the country. That was a big shift. But I think, so my point is, change was kind of introduced into my life, and I sort of just went with it. Went from being a city kid to the only boy in the house, the oldest, went from the youngest to the oldest. Got in the car business, paying my way through college, didn't really want to be there. Really, the last thing I saw myself doing was selling. Truly. Would that be true for you guys too? Yes.
No, I'm the oddball, John. Sadly, I'm the guy that had always had this keen attraction to the action on a showroom floor.
So it's true then, Ron told me you had a briefcase in your crib. So that's true?
Yeah, he was ready to go right from the start. I'm sorry, I had to tell him.
I think, I came up, in Jersey, so I probably had a 20 stash somewhere under the pillow.
Hey, Scott's not here, so you're the de facto pick-on guy, okay? That's
I'll play the role well, don't worry.
All right, I know you can wear it.
John, talk about that first experience in automotive, because to your point, most people don't make automotive a conscious top of the mind career choice. The overwhelming majority of people get in by accident because it's a last resort. How did you get into the business ultimately?
Yeah, I think, for me, it was de facto because I had to pay my way through college. My folks didn't have the resources to do it, and that was my way of accomplishing that. I remember interviewing with my girlfriend's dad, who ran the Honda store for the Wild Group, WILDE, in Wisconsin. Okay. Yep. So Bob Doyle ran that store, and he was probably number 2 in command after Larry Hankey, who ran all the Wisconsin stores, 12 or so of them, for Harold Wild. And Bob liked me a lot. He saw something in me. He had a parts driver job opening. True story. I saw myself with the window down in the summer delivering parts for, $6 an hour or whatever it was.
With the wind blowing through your hair, JT.
Yeah. And I did have hair. Yeah. And so, he did a disc profile on me. And I remember him having me come back, and he sat down. He said, good news, bad news. He said, bad news is the parts driver job is taken. And I was just like, what am I doing here? He said, the good news is you'd make a great salesperson.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, true story. So he saw some I and some D in me, and inspirational type pattern, or influencer, I think is what it was back then.
Influencer, correct.
Yeah. And so he had me interview with the Dodge store. So this is 1980s, right? And the Dodge product's not super shiny at this point.
No.
The Omni America and the K car, the Chrysler minivan, that's on the street now. And so, guys, I learned, I got hired there by Jim Garvey. I remember my first week, I didn't sell a car. Dick Hattenauer was the general sales manager. And I heard this page, Traver, sales office, boom. And so I walk in there, and as my girlfriend had come to visit me, Bob Doyle's daughter, and Hattenauer used to work for Doyle, so he knew who she was, and he tuned me up, guys. True story. And he basically said, look, you don't sell a car today, you're out of here.
Wow.
Oh, man.
And that's when my career started. When my career started, because in my head, this is a true story. I to myself, I said, if this guy can sit where he sits, I wonder how far I can go in this business.
Yeah.
No question.
John, I'm curious. I want to ask you a question. So when the hammer came down and they put the pressure on you, your response was, I'm going to go get it done.
Oh, I was going to get it done, and I probably had a few other things at that point running through my head. But yeah. Yep. So I did, and then that was June of '86. In July, I was salesman of the month.
There you go. That's the way to answer it.
I think I looked at that and I said, okay, I'm not putting myself in that position. And so then really the process started. It was kind of like I was young enough to be everyone's son that was selling on the floor. Sure. Most were old enough to be my dad. Yep. I had a sales manager shortly thereafter, Eli Simos, who I loved like a grandfather. He fought World War II, Greek, had the hair pulled back, bald top, really olive skin. Love that cat. and he invested, called me Johnny. He would do the management by objective each month with me.
Okay.
You know, how many cars you want to sell, how much you want to make. Now we're going to back into it. Here's your closing ratio. Here's how many ups. The good days, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
and,
no question.
And then every week I'd work with him, and then I learned quickly that I could build rapport remotely over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have internet yet, right? Al Gore hadn't created the internet yet. You know, we were a little early.
Right.
So look at Ron. Did he just go there?
I love it. No, I love that.
Okay.
Because I got that old school in me, man.
Yeah, I do.
He's an old soul, JT.
Yeah, I know. I'm just having fun.
No, I
Nobody's
love it.
Be offended.
I'm
But
not.
you know, the phone rang, and I quickly learned there were ways that I could build rapport with people and seek to understand them that was different than what I saw the guys doing.
For sure.
I realized that appointment-based business was my friend, that those people closed at a higher rate. They were allowed me to gross a little bit better. I wasn't ADMing people, you know,
right.
But it was just like I learned how to work for them. And so, you know, that was the early days. I also remember being taken advantage of. I'll tell you this. They knew I was the whippersnapper, right?
Sure.
And so Chrysler would have, this was a Dodge store, Chrysler would have these workshops that you had to send people to, like parts and service. And it would always be like, hey, it was like I was Mikey. You remember the Life cereal commercial,
Absolutely.
Sandy?
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
hey, let's ask Mikey. He likes everything. It was Traver. Let's send Traver. And they would send me, they would say, hey, we got to have you go to this parts workshop. And I'd always be like, okay. Hey, we got to have you go to the service workshop. Well, guys, in my first year, I had a master's degree in the macro of dealership ops. And you know what credit I get for that? Zero. Like that was given to me.
Yep.
And they were actually sort of, you know, hosing me down, if you will.
Absolutely.
You know, they were just checking a box and getting the task. But what happened is the Ryan guys, the Pat Ryan guys would walk in, and I'm watching how these guys dress and carry themselves. I'm having conversations with them, and I'm going, okay, so there's a business outside of this business too. And so that was the beginning.
A great revelation, JT. It's such
What's
a
that?
great revelation for us, you know, when on the retail side, to understand that there's an entire business community that surrounds the retail automotive business and supports it.
Yeah, and that happened for me. So I'm super thankful. I don't think any of us get here except for on the, you know, the coattails of others, right?
Sure.
So the Bob Doyles, Jim Garbeys, and Dick Hattenauers. Thank you, Dick. You know, all those guys that, you know, just played a role in either lighting a fire or giving you an opportunity or throwing something extra at you. So I think for our audience, the question is, based on where you're at in your career, what are you being asked to do that doesn't really fit your sweet spot, but that have you considered whether or not that's part of your ultimate resume where you're going? This really isn't about me. This is what happened for me, and how do I look back on it now and say, gosh, that really helped me. So like later in life, I would have an opportunity to oversee a fixed ops company for a Fortune 300, which is ADP. We can talk about that if you want at whatever point today.
Sure.
But then here today, we have a fixed ops BDC. Well, guys, my comfort level and the predictability in that space started back then.
Yeah.
In 1986.
You know, JT, Ron and I say all the time that we get to do this. We say it all the time. And I tell you multiple times throughout the course of each day, because we talk virtually every day and we remind each other every day, and we do it back and forth, that we get to do this. And I love your approach, because I think that was the philosophy that you had, whether it was conscious or subconsciously. You figured out that you got to do that, and then you put it to work for you later on, which I think is
and maybe even unbeknownst to you, John, right? Like we were talking about earlier backstage, we were just saying that a lot of those things that you might be learning, you know, on the early stages of your career end up catching back up years later, but you don't even recognize it in that moment because you're just in that moment, right? You can only see it from the perspective you have at the moment. So what do you think was the one biggest thing? Like when you got pulled into the office, what was that one big thing that changed in you that made you go and say, okay, I got to go to these, you know, parts and service conventions, or I want to go and be the #1 salesman next month? What was it?
Yeah, I think in that moment, there were two things that happened. One, I knew instantly that I loved to learn. I knew that instantly. So like there was, and again, that's a gift. I mean, it's not like before I was born, I put it in my order out form. You know what I mean? I mean, God gave me that early and
Sure.
said he's going to have a bent towards learning. And so for me, if we use the term training, there are some, like Gene Girdley would say, that's a generic term.
Yep.
I shouldn't speak for Gene like that, but he has a very polished view of education and learning and development, and I appreciate it. Ted Ings has a very polished view of it. I just quickly go to that term just so everybody can associate with it. But to me, it's about how teachable I really was willing to be early.
Yeah.
And I think I also ended up basically attracting people like that, Ron. So like when I hire folks, you could be the dumbest guy, the not so educated gal. Your resume may or may not say certain things, but if there's a level of integrity and teachability in you, I got to tell you something, you're going to be in my top 3 automatically.
John, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because we talk about things like coachability and hunger, 2 things that you really can't teach people as the probably single most valuable attributes for personality characteristics or traits that a candidate can have when they go and they seek employment. And so I applaud what you're saying. You're absolutely spot on the money.
Well, I remember the story you told me about Ron in the classroom when you
That's
were
right.
training. And tell me you didn't see the same thing in Ron Marvo.
It's exactly right. No, it's, when I told you that story, I said that I looked around the room, as I always do when I'm conducting a workshop, and I look for those that stick out, that stand out for a reason. And to your point, we're looking for those folks.
So the second thing I saw, I told you there were 2, but the second was curiosity. Curiosity. So the developer, the design piece of me, I realized like, okay, you're not just comfortable in this box. Like you actually want to know the other boxes and you want to know how they connect, or you may want. So I had teachability and I had curiosity. And so those 2 things, Ron, that's what happened in that moment. And I think if I look back on my career, they're still there. You know,
JT, I'm going to tie it right to successful BDC operations right now. And we'll segue into that in just a bit. But, great selling professionals and great BDRs, all right, business development reps, have those 2 attributes, right? That curiosity is critical when we're trying to draw from the folks that are prospects what it is that's going to help them make the very best decision possible for them. And if you're not curious enough to ask the right questions, and to your point, you always tell me, I say, John, you have this genius level ability, and you say to me all the time, Sandy, I just borrowed from Einstein, I just stay with the problem longer. That's a piece of the curiosity puzzle, is it not?
It is. Einstein said it's not that I'm smarter, I just stay with the question longer.
Yep.
And I think some of us bail out too soon.
Sure.
So we would have dealers that would call, fast forward to Traver Technologies, and we have these BDCs, and I'm speaking for Toyota coast to coast, and we're growing. And every once in a while I'd get the call, Sandy would call me from Sarami Toyota and say, hey, John, appreciate everything you guys done, but we want out of the deal, and it's a 1-year curriculum that we're implementing. And I would align with Sandy and say, look, first of all, no handcuffs, don't worry about it. I just want to talk to you about it. How'd you arrive at the decision? What part of it doesn't make sense? Is it the part where we call and talk intelligently? Is it the part where we do this consistently every day?
Right.
Is it the part where we have 2 and 3 scheduled confirmed appointments per salesperson per day? Which part doesn't make sense, Sandy? Because and I back you in a corner where you knew I was still for you, but I was really going to force you to tell me why it didn't make sense. Because it's not that it didn't make sense. It's that you're not doing it. You're not doing it. So why don't we just say that? I'm not going to do this.
Right.
But you can't, because most good car people, they won't say that because that's not how they're built. Because that's not how they're built.
Differently.
They need a Dick Hattenauer with a little bit of respect to back them up and say, you're right. I'll see you in the gym.
Yep.
I'll see you in the gym.
Yep.
Let's get after it. Am I right?
You raise a great point. We talk all the time. We were talking offline backstage about the program that you and your wife are on right now. And, every one of us has been on a program where we've either gotten in better shape, lost weight, or done both. And there's only one way that I know of to get healthier. That's to eat less and exercise more, eat healthy and exercise more. And it's no different formula for increasing or improving sales or bottom line results, right? We've got to do more of the right things more often.
Yeah, the plan is right here.
Sure.
It's a decision. It's a
That's
decision.
space in between the years.
The other part of the early journey for me was Russ Darrow. You remember this?
Sure, absolutely. Great.
So I started a company called ITC, and that was International Training Corp. And so what I was doing now, I had managed at the Wild Group and worked my way up. But now, after a few plus years of doing this, I wanted to do more. I had seen the Pat Ryan guys. So I start this company, and I'm writing my own training content. A lot of it's communication training. And my clients weren't not just dealers. I had Milwaukee Cellular. This is the beginning of the cell phone, where you had the cell phone sales teams. And these folks were 6-digit wage earners. Everybody's lining up to buy Hondas in 1980. Well, in 1990, everybody's lining up to buy a cell phone,
Absolutely.
The old Michael Douglas, the real big one, with the strap, right?
I remember it well.
Yeah. So I remember my first cell phone bill was 4 digits, and I about had a heart attack. True story. So I learned quickly how to use that thing wisely. But yeah, so I did ITC, and it was a struggle bus. That was a real difficult stage in my career. Even though I enjoyed doing the training, I enjoyed the people I met. Financially, it was a wash.
Yep.
But I was like, okay, so where am I at in this? And my phone, I had a voicemail. You remember the old voicemail, like real recorders?
That's the thing nobody answers these days.
Yeah, that no one answers. Came home and I play a message. It's Russ Darrow. It is the Russ Darrow.
Right.
And he's like a rock star, John, Russ Darrow, like whatever, he's got this great voice. And,
the voice for radio. Absolutely.
I'm telling you, and he is an incredible man. He is one of those guys, again, that God put in my life that I'm very, very thankful for. He was good to me, and he was good for me. So Russ said, hey, you're doing some hiring and training for a few of our stores, and we really like the results. Wondering if you'll come up to West Bend corporate office and talk to us. And I'm like, heck to the yes. So I go up, I meet with him, and he offers me a really nice position as director of training is how it started out. And all the stores, 12, 13 stores at the time. And so I'm going to partner up with each general manager and build a training plan for the entire dealership. Right. Sales, service, F&I, cashier window, you name it, right? So that was the next piece of the journey. And so I'm doing that. And then a couple of years goes by, and Pat Ryan comes out with this deal called Automotive Development Centers. And you know Dave O'Brien now.
Of course.
Quantum. So Dave was a trainer for the Milwaukee facility that they built. And Russ calls me and he's like, hey, these guys are interested in you. They want to hire you. And I'm looking, do I do this deal? So what it is it's like a tuition you pay each month, each dealer, each rooftop, and you send your people to the facility. So kind of like what we have here that you've seen, classrooms, and there's a curriculum each month, and it's really cool. And so I looked at the training, and they had just bought Key Royal's training. You remember Key Royal?
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
sure.
Okay. Now again, I'm just shooting straight. So at this time, I'm looking at the industry, and I felt like we were outdated as an industry. I felt like the way we sold, I wanted to update the outdated sales process, and that's really where the idea of business development was coming from for me. Tom Stuker already had a phone room.
Yep.
And Tom told me one time years ago, I don't know if this is okay to say, I would assume it's okay. He said, where you really were brilliant is in how you merchandised, how you put this thing together, the software that and I thanked him. But Tom had done some work already on the phone room side. Correct. But what I saw there was I saw have to. And so, and it didn't speak to the front end sales process. It didn't speak to the development of the manager, like the Sarah Van Tynes today.
Correct.
That you know of because she's been a business development manager, business development director, whatever the formal title she finished at. But my whole vision there was that was a new window to the top. Like it used to be F&I, right?
Yeah.
And so this was the new window to the top where it's like, okay, so if I have you guys come in and I develop you as business development managers, you're going to learn how to train. You're going to learn keywords and phrases. Your communication skills are going to be excellent. Your written skills are going to improve. Your coaching skills. Okay, so now I'm going to move you to GSM. Now I'm going to move you to GM. So I'll give you names of guys: Mark Rogers, Ron Campbell, Bill Carmichael.
Yeah.
Those are COOs, VPs, platform presidents for major automotive companies in the United States. All those guys were BDMs.
Yep.
All those guys were salespeople that eventually so that was the vision. That was, to me, business development was measurable. It was repeatable. But how it paid dividends was perpetual. Yes. And so it was a broader concept. And I'm not sure that's always translated in today's BDC. Like I got into a conversation at Business Bourbon and Cigars with you and Scott, and there was somebody else sitting there, another dealer, and they had this view of BDC that made me sad. And I wasn't in a position where I could really, there was a little bit of an audience. I didn't want to go there. But there was somebody that did witness it and whispered in my ear later and said, hey, you'll get another chance to expand his view. And I smiled because I thought, that's great that person caught that too, because their view is, they didn't understand. And so what I would say to those listening is, I'm not being critical. What I'm saying is, here's how you know you have really good people around you, or you're on a right path and you think, well, if you hear questions being asked, and if you're asking questions, you're probably hungry to learn. If you're doing all the talking and you don't ask a whole lot of questions, I would check yourself. Be careful, because there's a limit. There's a limit, man. But if you start asking questions, then work on what those questions are and improve the quality of the question, and all of a sudden the data coming back is even better.
Absolutely. John, you just touched upon something that I think is an epidemic challenge when it comes to business development and the tactics, strategies, and techniques that are employed. A lot of times what we see out in the marketplace is they want to hire people that have, quote unquote, great personalities and good phone demeanor. And that's not at all the end all be all. What we're looking for ultimately, and correct me if I'm wrong, we start with people that are hungry, that are coachable, and then, as you said, that are curious, that want to learn how to connect with people at a level that invites confidence from the other person that they're talking to, so that they'll share the kind of information that we need to help them make the best decision possible for them. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Sandy, that's really good. Can I put a spin on that?
Please.
Here's the observation. Test me on this. Don't believe me because I say it, but here's my gut. Most people overinvest in expiring skills, and they underinvest in permanent skills. So let me address that. So like expiring skills are tactical. So in other words, over time, if they're relevant, it sort of diminishes with time and technology. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
But permanent skills are evergreen, right? They create this disproportionate sort of impact. Like you said, give me an example. Okay, communication, judgment, trust, empathy. You see it?
100%.
And that speaks directly to what you just said, man. I mean, that to me, the overinvest, underinvest, just what I would do if you're a general manager, director of sales, whatever, you're listening to this, take a look, see where you're putting most of your weight. And
John, I think you touch upon it beautifully, because a lot of times what we do see is that tactical approach, purely a tactical approach to driving immediate results today, and not thinking about long-term, how that's going to impact positively or negatively. Again, time has to play out in order for you to see what the results are. But you touch upon the fact that the skills that are really true, you call them permanent skills, excuse me, that create sustainable connection, like long-term connection with prospects and convert them into long-term clients, is where we should be focusing a lot of our training and development, right? Those skills, I think, are taken for granted for a lot of these folks. And so we hire that great personality as opposed to hiring a great personality, and then developing some of those skills that you're talking about. Talk a little bit about the ability to make smart decisions on the fly. How do you help clients do that through Traver? I'm curious.
Well, before I answer that, I just want to say something. You and I had a conversation one time, and I said, "Gosh, Sandy, all these years in this space, and you and I are just meeting now." You remember that?
Yeah.
And you were like, "JT, you wouldn't have wanted to know me back then."
Yeah.
You told me that.
That's a fact.
And I was like, "Bro, we could all say that. We could all say that." But here's my point. Look at how much you've invested in the permanent skills.
It's everything.
Look how tactical we were early in our careers.
Sure.
You see it?
Yeah,
so to me,
absolutely.
the opportunity for anybody listening right now is picking up on that wisdom going, okay, you guys just saved me 10 years of my life. Ron, I can tell you're picking this up right now.
What's that?
Yes? No question.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's called a curve jump. And what you're offering the audience, especially the less seasoned and I'll call it younger folks that are listening or going to listen, on the recorded side of it, is that you're getting a gigantic curve jump here right now from John, where he's identifying the kind of skills that you need to work on in order to succeed. And it's the interpersonal skills and it's the personality traits that are attractive to people, whether you're on the phone, writing an internet response through email or an instant message really makes no difference. But your ability to convey empathy and compassion in order to connect effectively is critical.
So let me say something in business development as it relates to BDC. So what you're seeing is these are guiding principles that have been very good to me over the last 30 plus years. So one of the deviations I made with BDC is I let go of scripts. Everybody else had scripts. And the very first change I made is I said, we're not going to use call scripts. We're going to use call guides.
Thank you.
And so I said, now let me square this up. Does that mean we could just say whatever we want? Well, no, then we really wouldn't need a guide because there is no guide. So what's the difference? The difference is a script is word for word. A guide is keywords and phrases. It is key moments in the exchange, knowing where the junction is, where the fork is, and which side of the fork to take.
Yeah.
So to me, it was developing that feel. And I believed that communication was a contact sport, that like literally it was something that you could learn. Once you understood the why, it became yours. You weren't doing the Tom Hopkins, would you, could you, can't you, won't you?
Right.
You weren't no offense. It's a great start for someone somewhere.
Right.
Yes.
But in front of me is a real human being who I really want to connect with, who I really want to understand. I really want to help because, as Tully Williams says all the time, we're in the repeat and referral business. He nails it every time.
Yes, sir.
That was the ultimate goal. It was authenticity. And so there are some guides. It's kind of like, how do I go about doing this and doing it and yet still being me? And the answer is you came to the right place. I'm going to help you today. This is how we're going to do this. Boom.
Yeah.
So like pace lead pyramid. If you ever saw our training, that was one of the examples where we taught alignment and we taught emotional deposits before withdrawals. And so I said, okay, a pace is anything where I agree or I align with you. Hey, Sandy, I understand this is a lot of money, and I know this is a big decision, and I know this takes time, and I know you've put a lot of time in this already. I'm curious, at this stage, budget-wise, where are you hoping to be? Now, most people would say, hey, I appreciate everyone has a budget. Where are you hoping to be? Which one feels better, the first 100%. One or the second one?
Yeah,
the first one. Okay, so what did I do? I taught them that a pace was worth 25 cents and that a lead is a question. It's a withdrawal. And a lead is 50 cents. So if I pace you one time and I ask a question, you're overdrawn. There's an overdraft.
Yep.
I put 25 cents in you and I took 50 out, and you're saying, hey, go jump in a lake, right? You got it? So what I said is, look, we're going to go 25, 50, 75, maybe even $1, and then we're going to ask for 50 cents.
Yep.
That's level one. Level two was 2 paces in a lead because I got some carryover money. And I led them to the point where they're at the peak where they could just lead. And if they ever lost answers, go back down a level, go back down another level to where you have. And so it was the skeleton. And so again, I was truly trying to teach them the bones behind here's how you can communicate. And by the way, most training was like, here's how you control the customer. Can I tell you who I was trying to teach you how to control? I was trying to teach you how to control you.
Absolutely.
That was it. I just was like, hey, you're out of control, dude. Slow down.
It's a different perspective, JT. And it's, we, for the last 15 to 18 years, one of the things that I have focused on when I work on training and development programs in my own dealership, as well as now in my, my next life here, working with other dealerships, is getting folks to understand conceptually what it is that we're really doing, right? And I think that's what you're speaking to in effect. It's not the literal deal, and it's not the, what's your goal? My goal is to sell a car. Wow. I mean, when I hear that, I get chills, like not the good kind.
Yeah, cringe still, Sandy.
It's cringeworthy when I hear that response. And I'll hear that from GMs. I'll hear that from dealer principals, not just, the folks that are frontline and boots on the ground and, speed of the leader, speed of the pack ultimately. And it makes me pause. And to your point, it's about understanding conceptually what it is we're doing versus just that literal, I want to sell a car.
I got something for you. I got something for you on that. I love how you said that. So you do still hear that today, right?
Sure we do.
Okay. How often?
Too often.
Yeah.
Okay. John, too often.
Okay. So
often enough that I tell you it's fresh in my mind and I'm bringing it up with you.
Here's my 2 cents. I would say if you were that guy and I was working with you, I'd say, Sandy, that's one way to look at it. And you can keep looking at it that way. And you can keep talking to your people that way. By the way, what am I doing right now, Ron?
Well,
I'm pacing.
You're pacing. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. You can keep doing it that way, and you already know the results you're getting from that. There is another way where you might be able to double, triple, quadruple the results you're getting. And that way is focusing on purpose over profit.
Oof.
Purpose over profit.
Amen.
See, if you can figure out why they need to make $8,000 a month, and you can speak to that purpose, you'll find the profit will follow. If you can speak to the 2 kids that you're trying to get out of that public school into the private school, you can speak to their purpose and not the profit.
JT, we are so simpatico and kindred, I can't begin to tell you. And Ron's laughing right now, and he's clapping at you because one of the things that we talk about all the time is seek to make a difference. The dollars will soon follow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that has to be the right. It's not a mindset. It comes from the heart, right? It comes from the heart. You have to have a genuine spirit inside of you that is wired, to your point before, to helping others, to make the best decisions possible for them. And the only way we can do that is to be curious, to be empathetic, to walk them through that process and not focus on, period, dot, end of story, sell a car.
Mm-hmm. Mark Giron just said it's like in racing, you go slow to go fast. Hey, Mark.
Yep, I just put that up there. What's up, MJ?
At the ranch, we say slow is fast.
Yep.
And we have a ranching operation, separate discussion. We put up a lot of hay for, well, I'll let Sandy lead on that if we want to talk about it. But anyways, guys get to going fast.
Call me a horse, JT. A horse.
I did. Guys get to going too fast. And so what happens is you hit a pothole, you hit a tree, or guess what? Now we're down. Now we got to go get parts. The hay's already over curing. See what you just did? You went too fast. Then some guys go, well, I'm just going to go slow. Hey, bro, not that slow. You got to know what slow is. So that's the context of slow is fast. But Ron, great points. Lori, without dropping your name, I was talking about you before. You helped me when we were at Business Bourbon and Cigars in a moment where I was having a conversation with somebody, and you had the insight to say, hey, there'll be another opportunity to expand on what a BDC is. So thanks for being here.
Lori
okay, buddy, I'm back to you. Sorry.
She's now taking an active role with us and partnering with us over at Business Bourbon and Cigars, and we're excited. Scott and I recognized a lot of talent in her right away, and we owe you and Dave O'Brien dinner for that introduction, and we will make good on it, I promise. But Lori Halter is a superstar.
She is a superstar. She's overseeing our marketing efforts here too. So Michael Poro, my friend, my brother, how are you? What is this? The person has to be, yes,
Yep.
yes. And Michael knows this as well as anyone he's been in this business almost 40 years.
Yep.
And the cool thing about Michael's journey is here's a guy that he could have stayed with the old because it works so well, APB and all that. And this guy just keeps evolving. And I will tell you, the key to that is wisdom. The key is being able to, it's not knowledge, because a guy like that can get caught in knowledge and never change. Like there were desk managers that sometimes would say to me when I'm doing BDC work back in the days when I'm hitting the stores, and they would suspender me. You know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And they'd say, you know how long I've been doing this? And they'd hit me with the 20-year line.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally I was like, hey, seriously, I know you've been doing this a long time. I know you understand this space. The question is that a unique 20 years or is it the same year
one repeated 20 times?
No
doubt.
You have a chance. And Michael Poro is not that guy. Michael Poro is a guy that just he keeps evolving.
Yeah, he's like the Renaissance.
I had him at a table, and I'm sitting here talking about time mileage recommendations at the Catalyst event, Business Bourbon and Cigars. People think it's all about fun. It is a lot of fun. We worked our tails off. Yeah. We worked our tails off at that event, and we accomplished a lot. And you want to talk about catalyst ideas, but I watched this cat grab hold of the idea and run with it.
Yeah.
So teachable. He's teachable.
And the guy, JT, this, like he's a perfect example of the kind of dealer principal that you want to work with, because he is so welcoming to new ideas and he is so curious. He's constantly learning. He shoots me messages, Michael Poro, thank you, because they make my day. He shoots me messages 2 and 3 times a day about things that he's thinking about or ideas that he had, or little I'll call them Poroisms that get you to think a little bit better and at a little bit higher altitude. And that's the kind of person that we're looking to work with, JT. That's what we're talking about here. Let's do a quick recap. Like one of the things that I said to you is that we want people to walk away with how to optimize results in the BDC. And so you already started with, let's start with the right kind of people, right? Let's look for people that have integrity, that are curious, that are hungry, that want to do the right thing, and then ultimately invest in their soft or their interpersonal skills and teach them how to make smart decisions, basically throughout the course of a conversation, whether it's online or on the phone with a prospect or a client, and do it from a perspective of wanting to help them solve the challenge that they're discussing at that point in time. What else would you say would be key to helping dealers out there maximize or optimize BDC operations today?
Well, I think, for me, one of the early lessons, just some successes, failures, whatever, is I think I have a level of paranoia that's healthy. Right. And so, if I'm going to have fun with this, I would say, what I would do if I were you? I'd wake up terrified every day. Wake up terrified. Now, What is that? Now, first of all, it is not terrified of making mistakes. So the goal isn't to go make a mistake, but it's like, don't be afraid to basically test the boundaries, to innovate. Okay. Gene Lamont, you remember him? He managed the White Sox.
Absolutely.
And then he was the third base coach for the Astros in 2004 when we had Clemens and Pettit, and we made the World Series run.
When we had to send a couple of Yankees your way so that you could actually be competitive.
You did, and we appreciate that. So Gene coached third base, and we went to a lot of those games because we were in Houston then. And I called him Gene Hold'em Lamont.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because all that guy did was this. I mean, he was afraid to get somebody thrown out. I'm like, I would tell my kids, I said, that is not a good third base coach.
Yep.
That is not a good third base. And I'll tell you why. His job, the obvious stuff should be obvious, but his job is to stretch, kind of push the envelope, to stretch this thing. So to me, don't be afraid don't be careless, don't be unwise, but don't be afraid of getting thrown out at home once in a while. That's number one. Number two is do not be afraid of the competition.
Yep.
UCLA, John Wooden, he'd always tell his guys, in warm-ups, do not let me see you looking at the other end of the floor.
Yep.
You let them worry about us.
Absolutely.
We're ready. Let's just actually. Does that not make the hair on your arm stand up?
Oh, yeah.
So true.
Like I'm ready to go. You know, it's like that. Okay, so wake up terrified, but don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be terrified of the competition. I'll tell you who to be afraid of. Be terrified of your customers, because they got all the stroke.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to report into you.
Correct.
You can look. You can expect customer loyalty until the moment someone else offers a better solution, better service.
More value. Yeah.
I'm
JT,
loyal to you until.
Yep, no doubt. One of the things that, that you sparked in my head just now when you're talking about Gene Lamont, he coached every single player around third base the same way. And that is not the best way to optimize results, right? So guys have different levels of speed, different levels of skill when it comes to running the bases. You and I have talked about our sons. Your son played at the very highest level. He was a pitcher for TCU in the College World Series, correct?
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, he was a stud. And my son, Division III player. But we talked about the fact that it's all good, at the end of the day. But my point is we talked about that experience, and you can't coach every kid the same way. There are certain kids that have certain skills that are more highly developed, or they just have more natural talent than the others, and you can't coach them all the same way. And I see very often where dealerships or businesses in general will use their system, if you will, look to plug everybody into it, and then coach everybody the exact same way. And I feel that is a missed opportunity. How do you feel about that in terms of handling individuals on a team?
Well, this almost sounds like a counseling session. How do you feel? I don't know. How do you feel?
Well, let me ask you this way, JT. Do you share the same opinion that we have to work with people where they're at and who they are in order to maximize and optimize their performance and production based on what they can do?
No, so you and I align on this. You know that, and you're asking that question rhetorically for our audience. So here's the deal: if you have a template, a system that you're rolling out, what Sandy's implying, and I agree with him, is the most important thing is not the template. The most important thing is the response to the template.
Yep.
But too many times we go, hey, just okay, I get it, but you understand communication is what kind of sport? A contact sport.
Yep.
Which means you got to look and see how that hit them.
Mm-hmm.
Did they get it? Are they doing it? Do they understand it? How deep into it are they? And then what questions are you asking to take it all the way?
Yep.
To make it theirs. Does that make sense?
That's it, buddy. We're always looking for is for them to take ownership of it in their mind and in their heart, so that the results are theirs. Yes. Right. And we can't just apply the same set of rules or the same type of coaching. And that's what it is. We're coaching folks up every single day. By the way, I have to make a quick note here. It looks like Scott Joseph has finished his 4-minute flab workout. You had 8-minute abs,
doing crunches.
The 4-minute flab workout. So when he said to me he couldn't make it today because he had the 12 o'clock workout, I didn't realize that it ended at 12:04 and he was going to be able to join us.
Pop in real quick.
Scott, how is it possible to be handsome and buff? How is it possible?
Well, he can only check. Can he check any of those boxes?
Oh, man.
No, man. I think I might write a check for his head of hair. You know what I'm saying? And then he's got the olive skin going on.
He does have that. He does have that.
Yeah, Scott's a good man, and he handles the flack really well, doesn't he?
He does, but I'll tell you, he's probably laughing right now because I spoke to him the other day, and he says, I always kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I had a conversation with him the other day, and my sister happened to be over, and she was going through her Instagram feed, and then Scott popped up, and she was oohing and eyeing about how, quote unquote, hot Scott Joseph was. So I'll give him props right now because I don't want to crush his ego. And he says, I'm in between sets. There's got to be some workout, buddy. And he's paying for it too, JT. He's got a professional trainer. I actually skipped that part. I just married her. And she married the before picture, so she's stuck with that. What can I tell you?
We all married up, didn't we?
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go back on track. I apologize, but SJ disrupts as usual,
Yeah.
and I love it.
We digress.
We do. JT, let's as we round out here, we're coming up on 12:50, so we got about 5 to 7 minutes. I want to talk about some of the principles or priorities that you focus on in terms of success. You've had an amazing career. You're still crushing it. You've got a number of businesses that you own and operate. Share with the audience some of the things that you focus on a daily basis that help you stay focused and moving your feet forward on a daily basis.
Well, obviously, I have a bent for learning and this sort of thing. We've kind of talked about it, but I think there's two things I ask in every business that I'm involved in is it necessary and is it sustainable? And I try and unpack those. So, what does it change? If it's necessary, what does it change? Does it impact people's lives? That helps me understand the product. And if I can't really get there quickly, if it takes a long time to explain it, next, you know what I mean? It's like, there's other things I can get my head around. And the sustainability is really just projecting its role in the future. Like Elon Musk, the battery was a great idea. SpaceX, I'm still trying to figure out because that's a one-way trip to Mars. It's not a round trip, right?
I bought a couple of tickets for a few politicians, by the way.
Oh, that's great. Let me know if you need any extra seats bought. I'll get right behind you. Yeah.
Amen.
So those are the two. That's sort of what I start with, and I would just say to you, continue to ask those over and over again. So once you know that, I think there's a couple things. One, we all want some level of authority. We want less responsibility. Too few people want accountability. You just talk politician, right? Authority is going to put you in a position where you can fulfill your responsibility. I think it's also accountability is where we're going to own our responsibility. And I think it's the number one metric that we should all evaluate ourselves by, accountability. So business development, which was the message today, like I said earlier, it's measurable, it's repeatable, and it's a process, it's tangible. I think I would focus on the trust, I would focus on perception, and I'd focus on ego. So trust, there's three things. You got your intent, which is your heart's in the right place. Okay. You got competence, which your head's in the right place. Okay. And then you have judgment, which is your head and your heart, they're simpatico. They work together. Make sense?
Yeah.
Ron smiling, right?
Absolutely.
So in any situation, you have disagreement or differing views in business, basically identify which one of those three, from a trust standpoint, is in question. Is it intent? Is it competence? Is it judgment? So trust is one. I think perception is two, buddy. Okay. And perception is reality, and that isn't good or bad on its own. TCU, you mentioned TCU before. My oldest, Mitchell, pitched there for years, was drafted 4 times, PG All-American. He was blessed. He accomplished a lot and was blessed and gifted. I'll never forget the recruiting visit. He got recruited by a lot of big name schools. Jim Schlossnagel, who's now the head coach at A&M.
Yep.
I'll never forget. He said, "Hey, Mitch," he said, "listen," he said, "you go out there 10 times. 2 times, you're going to throw a no-hitter. 2 times, you're going to walk the park. The other 6 is who you are."
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
Isn't that awesome? He said, so you just got to understand there's highs and there's lows. Well, shoot, he and I had 1,000 conversations over the years about not too high, not too low. We're going to live right here.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. So my point is perception is reality. And that's not always good or bad. In other words, don't put too much weight on it. Sometimes it's amazing and you get way more credit than you do. He's an expert. She's an expert. She's amazing. He's amazing. Okay. Be careful about your clippings. Okay. Right. And sometimes it really sucks. You're the quarterback that just lost and you get way less credit than you deserve. The offensive line was porous. You guys didn't give me a half a second to throw and I suck, but you can't say anything. Right. And then, and so this is all part of the game. So perception, I would say, embrace the good, fight the bad. Right. Yep. And then the last is ego, and you're in total control of this. I think it's the most common enemy, buddy, of progress.
Sandy
you know,
and I talk about it all the time.
differences of opinion, they can escalate quick from a healthy debate. We struggle with this in our world today, don't we? Whether it's
Every one of us.
politics or it's faith or
Yes.
it's school system or whatever, and who's right and who's, the decorum starts right here.
Yep.
And so if you have ego in check, you can build camaraderie. If you don't, you're going to build resentment. So
Yep.
to me, it's those three. It's trust, it's perception, and it's ego. And all those things go into building business development. They go into building businesses, building relationships that take businesses farther. And these are that underinvested permanent skill set that I was trying to talk about today, that if you spent more time on it, I think you'd be pleased with the outcome.
Well,
JT, go ahead.
I'm
Ron.
sorry, Sandy, but to that point, JT, perception piece, right? Your perception's reality, but are you going out and trying to gather new perceptions? Are you staying as objective as possible as you're learning and not letting the ego interfere in that? And I think that's exactly to your point is all I want to add.
Yeah. John Bannon, thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for being with us, John Bannon.
JB's a pro.
I'm
JB,
Bannon,
one of my favorite people out there. JB, I can't wait to bump into you, buddy.
Ditto.
Miss you. Yeah. And Mark Durant too. Another guy. Mark, we got lunch coming up in the next couple of weeks before he heads out on the road with Kyle Petty for the tour. And by the way, Mark, make sure you email me the link for the donation page so I can get that up and get some promos on that as well. But
Thank
JT,
you, Mark.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We got to get him to business, bourbon and cigars. We've been trying, but for a retired guy, he keeps pretty happening schedule. To be honest with you, Ron and I went up and had lunch with him a couple of months back and enjoyed every second of it. He's a lifelong
How old is he?
guy.
60s, 70s, 50s, 40s?
I'm going to say Mark is in his early 60s.
So he's in the strategic decade,
yes,
as Bob Beal would say.
Yes, sir.
Right? We need to get him. Hey, Mark, if you ping me on LinkedIn, I'll drop you a book called Decades.
Absolutely.
It'll speak to you. The guys will tell you. It'll speak to you by Bob Beal. Just hit me on LinkedIn. Give me an address. I'll drop one in the mail. No problem.
Yeah, I'll get it to you for sure. JT, you talked about ego just a second ago, and I want to close out on that note simply because we're at a point in this business, and I think it's an inflection point in this business right now where we're going through some transformative changes to how the retail automotive business model works. And I see a lot of folks out there that are pounding their chest because of the net profitability that they're seeing in their stores. I see a lot of desk managers and GSMs and salespeople pounding their chests with the average gross profits that they're writing right now. And I would just, as a cautionary comment, make this statement that you said it before, we're never as good as the 2 no-hitters that we threw. We're never as bad as the 2 games where we walked the park. We're that 60% of the time is where we're going to reside. And this is a time when people tend to get a little bit fat and lazy and not work on their skills or invest the time in their people. This is the time when you should be investing in skill development and mindset development and preparing people for the challenges that we're going to face, whether it's 9 to 12 months or 18 to 24 months down the road. There's a lot of prognosticators out there. I don't know who's right, but preparation is the enemy of defeat. I promise you. So with that said, JT, any last thoughts to add before we wrap here?
Hey, just thank you. Just thank you for, your efforts and what you guys do to continue these type of exchanges in our space. And know you guys are cherished friends. And thank you for all that joined us today. It was honestly my pleasure.
Buddy, I appreciate you taking the time. I'll steal your time anytime I can get my hands on it. As I alluded to earlier on, I basically invited myself down to Richardson, Texas to come see you and see this incredible operations center. By the way, we need to just make a quick note of that. The Traver Connect Operations Center is absolutely breathtaking in terms of its scope, in terms of the technology investments that you guys have made. The culture and the environment of the operation is absolutely incredible. And so if there are dealers out there that are looking for a solution to either replace, augment, or develop the skills of your BDC in your dealership, you need to reach out to John's team. You can see the information right on the screen below, traverconnect.com or 855-891-0010. I encourage you to hit him up today. You will be absolutely blown away by what they deliver for their clients. And John, I don't think there's anybody out there that's got a handle on BDC operations and strategy the way that you do.
1,000%.
Well, let me just say, we're not perfect. We screw up every day. But we are passionate about what we do. We innovate. What we did last year is a percentage of what we do this year. It's always getting better. So
no question.
We're happy to be in this space. And again, thanks guys for all you do for our space.
No, it's our pleasure, buddy. Listen, make sure you follow both Ron and I, as well as JT, John Traver, Traver, on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and make sure you connect across the board. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well and catch each and every episode of the Automotive Intel Report when we've got special guests like John Traver. Today's interview was produced by my right-hand guy, Mr. Ron Marvo, and distributed by Sandy Cerami and Associates. When you don't know who to call or what to do, that's usually when our phone rings and our inbox dings, and so we're happy to help. We provide leadership and business development training, as well as the most innovative and profitable expense-crushing solutions in the market today. We handpick each and every strategic partner that we work with. So check us out at sandycerami.com. Grow your people, grow your profits. Special thanks once again to JT John Traver, the CEO at Traver Connect. Don't wait for your BDC to improve or evolve. Make sure you reach out to John's team today. Now it is time, guys, for us to step up, to stand out, and we're out. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
You bet.